Hi, this is Ann Smart, and this is my week 6 presentation for chapters 7 and 8. In chapter 7, we look at the loss versus gain. So, two of my kind of aha or quotes kind of this week that made me really kind of think and reflect and question came from chapter 7 on page 107. And the first one is, will people become more isolated, sitting at home in front of a computer and interacting less with other people socially? The second was, we worry that the technologizing, big word there, of education will further decline in community among Americans at the same time that the population is becoming more diverse. So, kind of these, as a parent, teacher, community member, is computer-based learning, full-on computer-based learning, something that we really want for our kids, and will this hurt our communities? And because our communities are becoming so diverse, I live in a very diverse community, for as small as it is and rural as it is, and that is one of the main reasons I send my kids to the public schools is because I want them to have that diversity. I want them to understand different peoples and different cultures, and have all sorts of different friends. The questions I put. So that kind of brings up my two questions that I'm going to ask you is, do or will parents want children home all day on computers? I have a friend that actually decided to homeschool their daughter in kindergarten with an online program, and within about 3 weeks was enrolling her child in kindergarten because she realized that her daughter was missing out on so much by not going to school socially. And the second one is, what skills do you want your children to have? I believe we're never, as a society, as humans, we're never going to allow ourselves to go completely online, because I think, just from some reading I've done and things, our human body, our human nature relies on social interaction. And so we're still going to have jobs that require skills. And so what are those skills that our kids are going to need in the future? If you get online and look up top 10 skills employers most want, or top 10 must-haves to land a job, you're going to come across pretty much a lot of the same. I found this on Forbes website, Forbes.com, and they kind of have a list here of top 10 skills employers say they seek in order for importance. You'll notice that a lot of them are technology based. They want people that are tech savvy and have organization and know computer software. But, the number one there is ability to work in a team. And number 4 is communicate verbally. So these are skills that our students are still going to need. And, they get the best practice of those skills in a school setting. Even as our society becomes more and more diverse, we are human beings. And if you go back to, 11th grade sociology or psychology, you'll come across, the Maslow's hierarchy. And we all are human beings, and so we all kind of rely on the same things, one being love and belonging. So in my society and in my community, where do I belong? And I think, we're never, as human beings, we're never going to be able to allow ourselves to not be social, which kind of brings up my last question. And I don't know, maybe I could be way off. That's why I'm interested to hear kind of your thoughts on this. Could humans even exist in an isolated society? If all of schooling, let's just say in the future, 25, 20, all our students are sitting at home on computers, will our human nature even allow this to happen? What would that look like? So I'm interested in your thoughts. These are just kind of my thoughts, my questions I have. Maybe kind of too big or broad, but just kind of what sparked me through chapter 7. Chapter 8 asked us, how can schools cope? And in chapter 2, didn't necessarily have any quotes. I mean, there were a lot of quotes and things that I highlighted and had, thought about, but two kind of ideas that came to mind are customization and performance-based assessments. And how can these two things fit together to possibly make our education system better, maybe, in a way? So this week's two thoughts of customizing and project-based assessment kind of had me thinking and taking me back to when I used to work in Washington and kind of how they run their state testing system out there, and then coming to Michigan and how we run it here. And obviously, we can all say that our children are way over tested, and what sometimes we wonder what are we even testing them for, all this. And my thought was, what if students kind of we started them out in school, obviously, in grade school and secondary school. And by the time they were, let's say, 10th, 9th, 10th graders, we were to give them kind of a state basic skills type of test to make sure that they are, where they're supposed to be. There's no more remediation needed or intervention needed. And if they pass that state test, they would kind of be allowed to go into some sort of certification program where they can customize their education more. And this might be where online learning comes into play, especially at the 11th, 12th grade years of a student's career. So they're able to kind of certify, and that would then, like they suggest in Chapter 8, push teachers to be held more accountable and do more of that project-based type learning and assessing of students to then further them into a school, a specialized school or college, where they can advance in a degree quicker and be more knowledgeable, I think, as they leave college. And maybe that'll push higher ed to kind of change the way they approach education. If they have students coming in that have more knowledge on the field that they're pursuing, to be more hands-on and be more in the field to get them more of that experience they need before they go into the workforce. So kind of just my thoughts on, maybe a way that education could change. And so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this idea of kind of this continuum of, getting kids to a certain point and then allowing them to start individualizing their education and putting the learning more responsibility on the student. And obviously they make some suggestions in Chapter 8, some pros and cons, but I'm just interested to hear maybe your school does something like this, or of a state or country that does something like this already, and share those kind of thoughts or knowledge that you have about this, because I'm just interested. All right, thanks for listening to me ramble on. Um, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of your guys' creative presentations and gain some new insight and ideas from all of you. Have a great week.